Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you for taking the time to join us for Finding Joy in Transition, a guide to handling change in 2025. And my name is Caro Melnick. I am a transformation coach and an NLP practitioner. And one of the reasons why I've chosen this particular topic is because I've just gone through some major changes and it can rock the core of who you are. My children have all grown up and moved out of the home. And at the same time, I left my 9 to 5 comfy job that I had been, there for 15 years and started out on my own business, which both of those changes are hectic if you take them in the individual if you look at them individually, never mind putting the two together. So I really, really felt how challenging change can be, and especially going through the festive season. It's a time where everybody is joyful and everybody's celebrating and has their families all together or they're on holiday. And for people going through change who've just moved to a new country and are struggling to make friends, or who've been retrenched recently and they don't have a job, so they can't go and buy Christmas presents or go on that holiday that they were wanting to go. For empty nesters, suddenly, experiencing this festive season without your children around you can be really, really challenging. And the same applies, if you've lost someone in the past year, and it's the first festive season that you are going through after the loss of that person who was near and dear to you. So this is one of the reasons why this time of year is one of the higher suicide rates, etc., where people are really challenged. And the world seems to focus on the joy and the celebration, etc. But people going through change might not experience that. And that is why I decided it's something close to my heart. And I'd like to share with you some research that I've done and experiences so that you can work through and use the prompts, in the workbook, and take some tips so that you can also find joy in transition. So, first of all, before we start, what changes have you experienced recently? If you'd like to share this with us, please pop it into the chat box. If you're watching the replay of this, make a note of it in your journal as you're sitting and watching this, because huge shifts can be challenging. Okay, the next, so this is what we're going to talk about through the webinar. Nancy, I'm not sure if you've got your video on, but can you switch it off, please? Okay, so what we're going to cover in this webinar today is we're first going to have a look at understanding change and the impact that it has on your life. Then we're going to look at the emotional impact of change, because let's face it, anything that's a change, whether it's a good change, whether it's bad change, whether it's something that you've been really, really excited about, it brings emotions with it, and it brings challenges with it that no matter how well you prepare, you're not quite prepared for it. It brings unknown. And a lot of us are afraid of the unknown. I mean, our brains are programmed to highlight things that may be dangerous for us. We've got that, I'm trying to think what it's called, that scans for danger all the time and tries to protect us. And change brings unknown, which is potential danger for your brain. So your brain tries to protect you from it. And that brings emotions to play as well. The third thing we're going to look at is how can we reframe all of these emotions and the overwhelm and the unknown? How can we take it and reframe it so that it's opportunity, so that we can look at it in a positive way. And we're going to look at practical tools that we can use to navigate change and to help keep ourselves calm and to manage the stress. Fifth is creating new traditions. And this one is particularly because I relate to the empty nester, but also it's valid for people who are, you've moved to a new country, etc., etc., etc. And what exactly is a tradition, and how can we look for joy? Because by creating the new tradition, we're also, our whole purpose why we're here is to look, how can we find joy in this transition that we're going through? And then the last is the importance of reflecting on the past year and setting intentions. First up, we've got a nice quote, and this one stuck out to me. The only way to make sense out of change is to plunge into it, to move with it, and join the dance. Isn't that a nice way of looking at change? I just absolutely loved this quote, so I had to bring it and share it with you. So let's look at understanding change and the impact that it has on our lives. As I've mentioned to you, change disrupts our sense of stability and predictability, which our brains are wired to seek out. So our brain is constantly looking for things that are unpredictable, and things that are potentially dangerous and harmful to us. And that's why people prefer to stay with things that they know, and the older we get, it seems the less open we are to change. And that's unfortunate because, change brings new opportunities, it brings growth, but change definitely disrupts our sense of stability and predictability. And therefore, it is 100% natural to experience a wide range of emotions as a result. And what are the common emotions that you would experience or could experience when you're going through change? Number one is anxiety. And anxiety is largely brought on because of fear of the unknown. And if you think about it, what exactly is that? You are creating a fear in your brain, like a movie. You've created this movie of this drama that might happen. And instead of going into it, looking for the opportunity and that you're creating this whole dramatic outcome that might happen, fear of the unknown. That's what normally happens. And then it causes anxiety. You might worry about what's coming next. You might overthink it, feel unsure about how you can handle it. And this causes a whole, domino effect of other, restlessness and constantly being on edge. The second, common emotion in change is loneliness, because major life changes can leave you feeling isolated. Empty nesters are an classic example. Your children have moved out, and suddenly you're on your own. Now what? Your whole life you've been bringing these children up and you've been guiding them and you've been looking after them, and they've gone out and they're adults and they're looking after themselves, and you are feeling completely isolated as a parent. And it's like your whole role needs to change in life. If you've lost a loved one this past year, it's exactly the same. You will be feeling isolated because you want that person to be with you, but they're never going to be with you again. If your social circles have changed, maybe you've gone through a divorce. Divorces are very interesting because your social circles definitely change. Your friends were friends with both of you, and now suddenly you are divorced, and it's almost like they've got to choose which partner they are going to be friends with after that. So that causes loneliness. And even though you're surrounded by people, you can still feel lonely, especially when your identity or sense of belonging is in flux. Then it also causes stress. The third emotion is stress. And this is because, change is unknown, and people stress about that because it disrupts your daily routines. It can add to your mental load. Maybe if you've changed jobs, you've now got to learn a new way of how that new company operates. And it creates stress because you're meeting a new team. You've got to function in a new work environment. There are many things that you have to manage at once. This can also lead to burnout. So learning to manage that stress is quite important. Stress affects your sleep, it affects your energy levels, etc., etc., even your physical health. The fourth emotion, very common emotion when you're experiencing change, is confusion. And the reason why you're confused is because sometimes when you've experienced a huge change in your life, you are not sure where to go from here. What is the next step that you need to take? You might feel stuck and unsure of your purpose, coming back to that empty nester again. Your children have left. I don't need to take them to school. I don't need to make lunches anymore. I don't need to worry about textbooks. Now what? Who am I? What is my purpose? You're unclear of your next steps, etc. So this leads to confusion. It makes you feel lost and lacking in confidence because now you're in a position that is totally unknown to you. So I'd like to ask you a question. Do any of these emotions resonate with you? Can you relate to any of these with the changes that you've been going through in life? And why is it important to acknowledge these emotions? Emotions are not necessarily good or bad. They're actually signals. So they give us clues about what we're needing. And if you start paying attention to what your emotions are, you can then say, right, this is my emotion that I'm feeling. I'm feeling stressed. I need to take some time out to create calm in my life. There's signals like road signs. You're traveling on the road of life. It's a journey, and there's a stop sign or a yield sign, etc. Just like when you're driving down the road, emotions are exactly the same. So the key is to shift your perspective and see them as opportunities for growth. They're highlighting something to you. And start thinking of them as signposts pointing you towards what is the next step to take, rather than thinking, oh, this emotion is bad or this emotion is good. So let's reflect on the emotions. What emotion have you been feeling as a result of recent changes that you've made? Type them in the chat box, or if you're watching the replay, write down the question in your journal, give it some thought, and make a note of your emotions, because once you acknowledge them, it can help you to make decisions about the next steps that need to be taken. Okay, the next item that we're going to discuss is reframing change as an opportunity. So reframing means that you're taking something and then you're looking at it, instead of looking at it as a negative or a stressful thing, you reframe it to a positive, something positive. So I'll give you some examples. But basically, change equals opportunity, change equals growth. So my children aren't here. They've left home, and I'm feeling like, what now? I feel like I've got no purpose left in life. We reframe that to my children aren't here, they've left home, and this is an amazing opportunity for me to now explore that photography course that I've been wanting to do for so many years, and I just haven't had the time and the money to do it. So, can you see how we've taken something that is negative and we've reframed it into something positive? The second thing we can do is look at creating new traditions. So in the past, when your children were at home and you had a big Christmas, festivities, and Christmas Day, you had a big Christmas tree with presents under the tree, and everybody was sitting around and giving each other presents and gifts, and you had a big meal. Now suddenly your children have moved out, they're in a different country, and you feel lonely, etc. It's time to create a new tradition. It's only you and your husband or your partner, or you may be on your own. So instead of having this big festive Christmas, maybe it's time to go out for a special Christmas lunch at a place that hosts Christmas lunches and is so special and expensive that you could never take your whole family there. And maybe it's time to spoil just you and your partner. So that's creating a new tradition, or going on an experience, going away instead of having Christmas at home, etc. And I'm just using Christmas as an example because it's such an obvious one. But there's many ways and many traditions that we have in life that we could be changing and reframing. Rediscovering joy. Write down one change you've experienced, and then list 3 possible opportunities that change can bring into your life. And this is so important because making a conscious effort to look for the joy, to look for the positive things in life, no matter what is happening, is one of the best habits that you could ever form, because your brain, and I've mentioned this in the past, that you have a reticular activating system that sits at the bottom of your brain, and its purpose is to filter what bits of information come to your conscious mind, what you're paying attention to. And if you are constantly reinforcing the positive, your brain realizes positive things are important to you. So it starts making you more aware of the positive and the opportunities around you rather than the negative. Whereas someone who's complaining the whole time, your brain is saying, "Ooh, this person loves complaining. So I need to find things for this person to complain about." And that is what you will start noticing around you. That's how the reticular activating system works. So taking your change and purposefully sitting down with your journal, writing the change, and then thinking about what are the possible opportunities, what are the positive things that are coming out of this change, writing them down, making a note of it, tells your brain that the positive and the opportunities are important to you. So you'll start noticing them rather than the negative things. So let's look at some practical tools to help you navigate the change. One of the things that you need is to find calm, because all those emotions that I mentioned earlier, they are, anxiety, stress, loneliness, they're negative emotions. They're ones that you need to work through. Yes, they're showing you what steps you need to take, what you need to pay attention to. But these tools here can actually help you to work through that and to get through that. Because if you are calm, then you can focus better and you are better able to manage the change and the uncertainty and the unpredictability that comes across your way because you're strong and you're not on this negative emotion, back foot. So the first is mindful breathing techniques. And I really, really, really believe in breathing and paying attention to your breathing. So breathing is so beneficial for your health, for your mindset, and just to help you regulate your emotions and calm you down and ground you so that you can focus on getting through the situation rather than having all these, overwhelm and clouded emotions around you. So the one breathing technique that I like to do is I like box breathing. So box breathing, what you do is you breathe in through your nose and you fill your lungs as full as you can make them. Breathe right down almost into your stomach. And then you hold it there and you count till 4. And then you let all the air out through your mouth like that until your lungs are completely empty. And then you hold it there and you count to 4 and you repeat that process for about 2 minutes or so. You'll be amazed at how you feel at the end of that. Then gratitude journaling. Gratitude journaling, again, goes back to paying attention to the positive things in life. So every day, if you make a habit at the end of every single day to write down 3 things you were grateful for, even on a really bad day, there will be 3 things that you're grateful for. Even if it's just, I woke up this morning. I'm in good health today. I have a roof over my head. Everything else just went to the dogs today. It was a terrible day. But I have those 3 things that I'm grateful for. Train your brain to start, paying attention to the good things in life and how blessed you are, because you are blessed. The last tool is self-anchoring, and I absolutely love self-anchoring. It's an NLP tool. And what I can do is I can share the script with you on how to do self-anchoring, but it really works best if you work like with someone like myself, an NLP practitioner who can talk you through the process. But what self-anchoring does is you create a trigger, you purposefully create a trigger, for instance, like closing your fingers like this. It's not emotion that you do regularly. So the minute you do this, your body's like aware that this is something that's not normal. And you do this, and then when you do that, it's going to calm you down. It's going to bring you to a state of feeling in control and focused. And it really is one of the most useful tools that you can, use in life, because if you're going into a meeting where you have to address conflicts, you can just fire your anchor, then you calm, you focused, and whatever somebody throws at you, you're not going to react with emotion. So yeah, that's what self-anchoring does. Okay, so let's talk now about creating new traditions. Christmas is a classical situation where, we can talk about traditions, but there are many traditions that we formed in life and in our culture. So the first is, in order to change the traditions, we need to understand what joy is. So what is joy? What is the difference between happiness and joy? So joy is the state of being that allows one to experience feelings of intense, long-lasting happiness and contentment of life. I mean, isn't that amazing? I just love this particular definition of what joy is. a state of being that allows one to experience feelings of intense, long-lasting happiness and contentment in life. It makes happiness seem almost superficial. So in order to find the joy, you need to understand what it is. And this is what we're trying to create out of life. Something that is sustainable, something that is intense and long-lasting and keeps you content. Then what is a tradition? So a tradition is an inherited, established, or customary ritual or thought or action or behavior that you do on a regular basis. So it could actually just be a habit or something that you've created in your home. The Christmas festivities is one example of it, but it doesn't need to be that. It could be that every night your family sits around the dinner table and has a meal together. That's a tradition. So in order to find joy in change, you need to recognize what are those traditions that are making you feel so lonely, making you feel so uncertain, that are no longer there, and reframe them and create a new tradition that can fill that gap. So here are some examples on how you can create new traditions. You can embrace new rituals. Now, it sounds a little bit, maybe rituals is a bit of a weird word for this, but for instance, for an empty nester, one of the most beneficial things that you can do is to explore and learn new crafts. We're going to be hosting some webinars to teach people, simple crafts that they could do, things like flower arranging or designing your own cards on, greeting cards on Canva, things like that. So we're going to be running some of those this year because it's actually nice to learn these new creative things. So it doesn't have to be a ritual where you're dancing around a fire or something. It could be a simple practice of learning a new craft, learning photography, and now picking it up and going and taking photographs and, how to edit them and things like that. Just something to fill the gap of that old tradition that you used to have that you're now missing. Find meaning in small moments. Look for the little things and find meaning in them because they are there. Your life still has meaning. Your life still has purpose. And celebrate your unique journey. So you can celebrate your unique journey by starting a gratitude practice or even planning a self-care activity on a weekly basis. So as part of the reflection, list 3 new traditions you'd like to create this year. And for each of them, what makes them meaningful to you? Something that's linked to emotion, especially a positive emotion, is more likely to have a benefit than something that you don't link to emotion. So it's always important whenever you're wanting to start something new, try and connect that emotion. Why is it meaningful? Why are you excited about trying this out? Then the last item we're going to go through is reflecting on the past year and setting new intentions. And okay, so these are some questions that I'd like you to reflect on and answer in your own time. It doesn't have to be now, but I wanted to point out something because there's so much talk about living in the now, which is fantastic because now is the only time that you have that you can make a positive impact, that you can make change. You can't change what happened in the past, but it's so important to reflect on what happened in the past. And the reason why is because the past is where you've learned what didn't work, what did work, because you can use that knowledge to create a better experience in the future. So this is why it's so important to look back so that you can move forward. What are you grateful for? What lessons did you learn in the past year? And with that in mind, what intentions will you set for 2025? Okay, so lastly, last of last, well, this is second last. Remember that when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. This is a very famous quote by Dr. Wayne Dyer. But I'd like to emphasize this because you can decide to look at the change as a daunting, overwhelming, scary experience, or you can choose to look at the change as an opportunity, as a growth experience. So keep this in mind. And the second quote I'd like to share with you and remind you of is Socrates said, "The secret to change is to focus all of your energy, not on fighting the old, but on building the new." And I don't think I need to say anything more about that. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is to share a key takeaway from today's webinar. What did you find useful? How did it help you? I'd love to hear your thoughts. And then we have a take-home activity. Sarah is going to send you a copy of the Picture Your Thoughts journaling and planning toolkit that can help you with your gratitude journaling, just to, get your life in order and to navigate the change in a more structured manner, get planning, etc., etc. Okay, any questions? We went through, I just want to wrap up quickly. We went through the emotional impact of change, reframing change as an opportunity, some practical tools on how to navigate change, creating new traditions, reflecting on the past year, and setting intentions for 2025. So here's what the journaling toolkit looks like that you're going to get because you attended and you registered for this webinar. And it includes 15 useful journal and planning templates, and every single template has detailed information on how to use the template and why it's important. What is the significance of this particular template? It helps you to, it benefits your mental and physical health. So it's quite a range of templates in this toolkit. Also, I'd like to remind you that I have my ebook, Reignite Your Life, Finding Purpose After 50. If you're not 50 yet, that's also okay, because actually this book is all about finding purpose. How do you find your purpose? Why does it matter? Actionable steps to do that. And also, life after 50 can be your best life. Let's be reminded of that fact. A lot of us think, oh, when you hit 50, you're over the hill, and then, it's downhill from there. And if you haven't accomplished what you want to accomplish in life, then sorry for you. Except that life can begin at 50, actually. You've got your children growing up and leaving home, and you can now start focusing on you. It's your time to live and to do those things that you have always wanted to do. So if you're interested in this book, please, that's the QR code. You can download it. Otherwise, you can contact me and ask me for the link. The next event that I'm going to be running is a 5-day online challenge for self-care. So it's 5 days of self-care for a stronger, calmer you. We're going to look at combating stress, how to incorporate movement into your daily life. So it's stress, exercise, self-care, simple little things that you can do to look after yourself. You know, when you're in an aeroplane and they give you that safety talk, they always say to you, put on your own oxygen mask before you help your, other passengers in the plane. And we forget that that's what we should be doing in our everyday life, because if we don't look after us, how can we help the people around us? And how can we be the best version of ourselves for our family, for our children? So please register for the challenge. I'm busy updating the website because it mentions beat the end of year burnout. But all we're going to do is look at prioritizing self-care to look after ourselves, why it's important, and how to go about it.